Hi guys! Welcome back to the Colour Cave and welcome back also to Animorphia, where we're going to continue on a little colouring chat in our nameplate page. As per, I have tea and we are on just common or garden, what I call builder's tea, nice strong tea today. It's another lovely delightful day in Scotland. My original intention was to colour the rest of the greenery, bar maybe like this one little section before I started filming this, but the daylight is running away from me. We're getting to that time of year where our daylight hours are severely limited, so I figured I would just film and colour in the rest of it at a later stage. So the plan today is we are going to finish the greenery on this side, and I'm using exactly the same pencils as the last video, which is why I'm not going to take a huge amount of time over it. I will colour in the rest of the greenness off camera once we're finished with this video. So we're going to get this section done and then we're going to start working on some of the little itty bits, and what that will leave us is one more video just to finish anything off that we don't get through today. So the pencils that we're using is the Arteza set of pencils, the Arteza Expert, and it is a 72 set. And for those of you that didn't see the last video, I'm working with two sets of combinations. I have one twin set of pencils and they are Absinthe Green and what is known as Matcha, but if you're me it's called the Alley pencil. And the other set is a trio, and that comprises of Spring Green, Lime and Basil. And we've just been alternating between these to try and get some contrast in some of the leaves and stalks and things to make it look a bit more kind of jazzy. I'm really pleased though with how this green's popping out. That was my full intention, which I'm quite pleased about because sometimes that doesn't happen. So let's get zoomed in a little bit and we can just get colouring. So I'm going to get to work with the twin set of pencils. So we're going to start with the Absinthe Green, and I'm just going to work on this section here. I do need to have a little bit of a sharpen though, so we'll do that first. Okay, so in with the absinthe. Now as per, we're just going to go with a light layer to begin with, and we can decide where we want the funky parts to be once we've got this first part of the stalk coloured in. I'm glad to say that the colour balance on this camera is really good, and it is excellent at adjusting the light. It is much darker in the cave than it looks on camera, and this is one of those times where I am glad that I spent the amount of money I did buying this camera. Now that I've gotten used to it and I've kind of figured out some of the functions, it is really helpful, and it makes situations like this much better for me. Being a person that's tight for time, it's wonderful. Okay then, so I'm kind of looking at there's these kind of little frilly, frondy, fingery type parts, and I'm thinking that part there might sprout a flower eventually, not unlike these. So I think what we'll do is we'll use this matcha and we'll use that on these tips so that it's kind of going to be like a kind of more lush, rich part of the flower. Now again, I'm just sticking to light layers. The combination of this paper and these pencils allows for a fair amount of layering if you go steady and don't press too hard. So I'm just popping that in at these kind of like endy bits. Here we are, we're back to scientific and technical descriptions already. Gonna be one of those videos today. And for this leaf I'll maybe just put a little bit on the bottom to give an idea that there's maybe a wee bit of curvature going on there. You know, it's like a wee bit curly. I'll just go back over that a couple of times. And then I can go back to this absinthe. I nearly said matcha there, that's the one we're just using. And I can build up the colour in these other areas and then just alternate between the two in the areas that we've been working on. And they will kind of blend together naturally as well, and that's the really nice thing about using pencils like this. I think I've said this almost every video now, but I'm actually quite impressed with these pencils for the price of them, particularly if you're outside the US and you don't want to pay the money for Prismacolors or you can't get access to them. These are a pretty good second place, I have to say, in terms of how they feel. They are not as soft as Prismacolors, nothing is as soft as Prismacolors, but these come a pretty good second, and yeah, I quite like them. I'm quite into these pencils now. I just wish that there was open stock available, and I've said that pretty much every video as well. I'm sorry guys, you must be sick of listening to that, but I'm hoping it will come. There was rumblings that they're going to do it, and if they did, I would consider having these as more part of my regular repertoire. I only learned how to spell repertoire properly the other day. It was one of those words that I knew how to spell, but I just wasn't sure if I knew how to spell it. So we've got this stock that's in behind here, and because it's in behind I'm going to make it really dark. So I'm going to put down a layer of basil. Now that is the darkest pencil from our trio of pencils, and again just lightly to begin with until we figure it out, because with pictures like this I do like to just kind of figure things out as I go along. It's more fun than planning everything out all the time. And then I'm going to go to the spring green, which is the mid-tone, and I'm going to pop a layer of that down over the top. And that's kind of what we did up here, if you remember, if you've been watching before. Pop that in there. And then I'm just going to go to town with this basil. So it's going to be really dark in there, so we want to get some nice heavy layers in there. Just take our time, pop them in, and really get that idea that that is in behind our little leaf that we've just coloured. Moving down, I'm going to stick with the trio of pencils for this frond. Frond, I like the word frond. Frond is a word that kind of, it kind of suits a Scottish accent. It's a word that rolls off the tongue. And because we do, well, some of us do and some of us don't roll our R's. I don't always roll my R's. It's just laziness, I'll be honest. But if I'm saying something properly, I would say frond. And that's just one of those words that's good. There are certain words I've come across just recently that I really struggle with. And it's not because I can't pronounce them, it feels really awkward. And one of those words is the metal bit on a paintbrush. I just happen to have one sitting here. This part here is called the ferrule. And it's a really awkward word to get out, ferrule. And I always have to kind of stop and think about it before I say it, because it sounds ridiculous. It sounds as if it doesn't belong in my mouth. And that's going to be taken out of context in so many ways, but we'll let that one slide. Ferrule, I don't know why, it's just a really awkward word and I don't like it. Okay, so there we go. In these hatched sections here, all I've done is pop down some of this spring green. See what I mean about ours, spring green. And then I'm going to use the basil just in the stock, and I'm just going to put a tiny wee light layer of that. That'll be fine. When I first started my channel, I was quite paranoid about my accent and people being able to understand what I'm saying. And so many of you have said that you really like listening to my accent, and that's really nice because it's something that comes naturally. I just open my mouth and out it comes all by itself. So that's really nice to hear, but I do have to say, so I'm back to lime now for these light portions of this leaf. I do have to say that this is my normal accent. I don't sort of put this on or anything, but I do augment the words that I use, and it's just because I use a lot of traditional Scottish words and a lot of sort of dialect as well, which if you're Scottish is fine, you'd know what I'm talking about, but for the rest of the world you'd be like, what on earth is that lady saying? So although I am speaking in my normal voice, there's words that I use, and one of the words that I've found that I use on the channel a lot, which I don't use at all at home, is the word little. When I'm talking normally, I say wee as in small. I use that word all the time. I never use the word little. But on the channel, I do notice that I jump between saying little and saying wee. And that's just one of those kind of little little augmentations that I've made as I've gone along. And it's really just, I don't know, I just want people to be able to understand what I'm saying. I know a lot of the time I probably don't have to, but it's kind of happened naturally. Okay, so we've got absinthe now. And I suppose it's a bit like, I don't even know if people have got one of these anymore, but a telephone voice. It used to be when you didn't know who was calling you, before caller ID was invented. When you answered the telephone at home, quite often you would put on a slightly more pleasant or posh voice until you knew who it was at the end of the phone. And I still do it now with my work phone, like my business phone. If someone phones me, I'm like, hello, Jem speaking, and then if it finds out it's like Mr. Jem or something, I'm like, and then I just say, all right. So it's just one of these little things that we do, but I think it's quite funny actually. It's quite amusing. Oh, now where does this come from? This is confusing. What is this? This is a flower. And I've realised I've coloured in the flowers, but it's not joined onto anything. It's just like floating there all by itself. Oh, Kerby, what have you done to us? I have to say that is something, it depends on the artist and the colouring book, but those little continuity errors that you see, you know, maybe where a line's been forgotten or something like that. In Kerby's books, despite how busy and detailed his pictures are, this very rarely happens. This is a first for me anyway. Right, okay, let's move down to these ones. Down here. I think we might have to do this great big long one as well. Oh. Okay, so back to my trio, and these ones are all kind of intertwined. So again, just starting with my lightest pencil, which is the lime. I'll pop this in here. I am filming quite far in advance just now because I'm working on the Cavemas videos. So as I'm filming this, I have literally just edited the little announcement video about my my extracurricular activities, my Redbubble shop, and the eBay shop for the cave stash, and also the fact that I have a few of my little watercolour prints as well. And truthfully, it's quite exciting, and see to receive a set of your own artwork in print form, you know, for someone to send them to you. I'm just using the spring green here to go into some of these hatched areas. For, you know, to receive them and have them physically in your hand, it's actually quite nice. It's quite exciting. It makes things feel a bit more, I don't know, real. Okay, that could be a word. I'm on to the basil now. I'll pop this in here. But there's something really satisfying about it. Truthfully, I am not expecting to sell a buttload of artwork. It's a very, very specific thing these days, and a lot of people like digital prints, or they just get stuff off the internet and print it at home or whatever. I am not expecting to sell a lot of paintings. Plus as well, I am a very, very new painter. Right, using the lime now, I'm just going to build up the layers on these parts that are joining into the actual flowers just in here. So, but I just thought it would be nice to have a few on offer and just see how it goes. I am not an experienced painter, so my paintings are not spectacular. They're more the kind of thing I think that people look at and go, oh, that's quite nice. But they don't, it doesn't like invoke any sort of emotion or feeling within them. So, but we can wait and see. It's not going to do me any harm. For the money that I spent to get them printed, it's definitely worth a try, and at least I can say it's something that I've done as well. And I'm a great person for stuff like that. Right, I'm just going to use the basil now, and I'm just going to add in some shadows. So start with the obvious one, which is in here, because that is all the way in at the back. And I imagine there'll be a little one here as well. Now we'll just blend that out. Use the spring green to blend it out into the paler colour here. And then we can add this in here. It's getting darker and darker and darker. I'm at the point where I'm struggling to see what I'm doing, even if the camera isn't. I am super excited about my website though, because I know where it's going. To have the cave stash eventually over on the website is going to be a really big thing, because it's just one of those little pet projects of mine, and the stash seems to have taken off, and there's been a lot of interest, and you know, there's quite a lot of you that have bought stuff from it. And for me to be able to utilise that and give people the opportunity to try out some art supplies without, you know, forking out a lot of money, then it's beneficial for everyone. So I really want to make that, you know, part of my own sort of thing, not kind of like shipping it out to other websites and stuff. So yes, things are good. I'm in a really good place despite all the stuff that's been going on with the FTC regulations, which really puts the fear in you. I'm actually feeling quite good generally about where things are. Okay, we're going to start up here now. And I think I'm going to stick with the trio of pencils, and I'm literally going to bring it down in a gradient. So we'll have the lime at the top, and then we'll move into the spring green, and then down at the bottom here we'll use some of this basil. If we still want to get the sort of shading and the variation in each of the sections, this is a place where it's super important to use layers. With each pencil, I'm just going to put that light layer down. So this is the basil. We'll pop that in at the bottom. This is also going to help us map out where each colour is going to start and end. So I think I'll maybe just bring the basil up a wee bit here. Not too much though. Maybe just past this little guy actually, because that's kind of a bad place to start changing colours over. About here. And then I can go into the spring green here. Just use that really light layer. Bring this up. I was kind of interested to find out what was going to happen today. In the field directly outside the cave window in that direction, there has been wheat in it for the last 2 years, and I have some hairy faces to keep me company now. Okay, switching to the lime. Let me move this up a little bit. And they've been settling into their new home, and they've been quite noisy the last few days, and I thought I'm going to sit down and film this video and they're all going to start mooing. And the water trough is literally like in front of the cave window, so when they're all slurping and kicking about, that they're right outside the window. So but they seem to have been quite quiet so far. I can see two hairy bodies and two faces peeping over the wall just now, but they're just looking at me. Just looking at me. Okay, so now that we've got this rough idea of where this gradient is going to go, I'm going to sharpen each of these pencils up. I want to get these to a really fine point without them breaking. I am suffering with quite a bit of breakage with these pencils, and yeah, that's not great really. Let's see if we can get something going. Nope. Okay guys, I'm just stopping to show you this. I'm having severe issues with my lime pencil. Even as the core's coming through, it is really crumbly, coming off in my fingers. Not getting on too well here, so this is slightly disappointing because this is the first time. Now it may just be a rogue pencil. I'm not suggesting for a second that all the Arteza pencils are like this, but oh, I think we're... I've almost got a point in that, and I'm not going to push it any further because this pencil is going to get short real quick. And as we mentioned previously about the open stock situation, yeah, so that's quite a lot of lead I've had to like sharpen through just to get where I am. See, when you lay it out end to end like that, that is quite a considerable chunk of pencil we're talking about there. I just thought I'd let you know about that. You know, I always like to be honest about the products that I have. I have to say though, that is the first pencil I've had this problem with, so it might just be this might just be one that's been dropped or something like that. It's not reflecting on the quality of the entire set. After we've done this as well, guys, I'm going to have to stop for today. The video isn't going to stop for you, but I'm going to have to stop because I'm really struggling to see what I'm doing. And if I start putting lights on and things, it just causes all sorts of problems with shadows and whatnot. You don't really need to know that, but I'll tell you that anyway. Let's think about this. I'm going to put my darker parts in first just because that's easy. So there we've got a little hatched area there. And this is just building up layers of the same colour. This is nothing fancy. Everyone can do it. And all I'm doing is just picking out, there's a few areas where it's obvious that the little fingery bits are like in behind. So they're the areas where I'm going to build up, but you just pick parts at random. I'm sure I said this last time, but in a picture this size, you don't have to agonise over all the tiny little details and spots and things because there's so much going on. If you have something where you've given the kind of general idea of what you're doing, people's minds can kind of like build the rest of the picture for them. You only have to give a suggestion of something and the eyes and the brain will do the rest of the work. If you're a complete perfectionist, well, good luck, but I like things to be right. I'm quite a precise person, but with things like this, it's supposed to be relaxing, it's supposed to be enjoyable, so I'm not going to get hung up on little details. There we go. That looks okay. So now when we're coming into this little middle part here, this is where I want to start sort of blending my colours together. You know, I'm going to move into the spring green here. So just kind of pushing that down into where I put the spring green down on the paper, which is about here. I know it's really pale on the camera, but you will see why in just a moment. So pop in what I want to pop in here, and then taking my spring green, I'm just going to start to blend that. So I'm just very lightly going over the top of what I've done in the spring green area and pushing it into where the lime is. That's basically how blending works. It is really easy with these pencils. And now I'm just doing the same thing as I did up here with the lime, but with the spring green. So I'm going to go for the darker parts first and stick down a couple of layers on just each individual bit. This needs sharpened as well. I'm really frightened to sharpen this now. Get some of these in at the back here. And then I can just put a light layer over the top of everything, just to bring out that colour a little bit more. And then deepen down the colour in the stock, just by going back over it. These areas are a bit larger, so they're a bit better to work in. Don't have to try and squeeze everything in as much. Again, just as a rule of thumb, if you start with the hatched areas, you're not really going to go wrong there. And then we can just start going over everything, just to bring a little bit more colour into this stem. One of the art groups that I belong to, there was someone who had used some coloured pencil, and it was the Staedtler, the normal Staedtler coloured pencils, and the person was basically saying, is it me or are these pencils terrible? And it's funny because it's a brand that, when it comes to art supplies, generally, I love Staedtler stuff. I use their erasers, I use their pencils, I use their pencil sharpeners. Their coloured pencils are terrible. They're just awful. And I don't kind of throw that phrase about very often. I've tried their Ergo Soft pencils. I've tried the newer, I think they're called Colour Soft pencils. And I've tried their watercolour pencils and they're just not good at all. Again, I'm just doing the same thing here with the Basil as I was with the Spring Green, so nothing different, just a different colour pencil. And because, I have tried a couple of brands and they stink at coloured pencils. And I find it really, really surprising that Johanna Basford has... I was going to use the phrase sold out, I can't say that. I'm surprised she's affiliated with Staedtler for coloured pencils, bearing in mind the sort of behemoth of an artist that she is. I thought she would have maybe held out for another brand of pencils, because I just don't rate them at all. I know everyone's different and they have different preferences, but even for a more budget friendly pencil, you can get far better quality pencils with better laydown for colouring than the Staedtler pencils. And I don't often express a negative opinion about pencils, but I just feel I don't want people wasting their money. But this guy, I mean, he's an artist. He's like, what am I doing wrong? I'm kind of new to coloured pencils and, I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, no, you're not. It's the pencils. So thankfully, there was a few other artists in the group that backed me up, which was nice. It's not just me. And they were like, yeah, dude, get rid of your pencils. So, if anybody uses Staedtler pencils on a regular basis, I would love to hear from you. Especially if you have access to other pencils as well. I would be really keen to hear your opinions on that, because it's just a brand that I can't get on with at all. And I've tried a couple of times, and as I say, I've tried the different, the different ones. I've even tried the kids' ones, the Staedtler Norris pencils. And I'm always very curious about, other people's impressions of these things. I try to be honest when I review products, and they're just, they're not for me. They're definitely not for me. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you have experience with Staedtler pencils and if you like them, or if you find a quirk about them or anything like that. That would be cool to know. Do you know what's really nice today in the cave as well? I've just realised everything is so quiet. All of the dogs are asleep. I took them on a gargantuan walk. Even the little Jack Russell, who's 15 nearly. I walked them for like 2.5 hours earlier, and I have not had a peep out them, and it's wonderful. Unfortunately, I don't have time to do that every day. Otherwise, I would be doing it so we get piece to film videos. Right, so I'm just adding in a few accents and things here. Now again, there's nothing technical about this. I'm just picking out random areas and putting a flick of colour in, just to make it a wee bit more interesting, because that's what we like to do. We want our work to be interesting. Righty ho. Okay, let's have a wee zoom out now and just have a look at this section of what we've done here. And that is looking mighty fine for the time being. Right, I will see you back here tomorrow, but it's going to be like 2 seconds for you because I can't see what I'm doing anymore. So it is the following day, and I decided last night to throw caution to the wind and finish off all the green areas, so I thought I would just let you see them before we move on with the next part. I have a considerable amount of light compared to yesterday as well, which is always nice for me. But you can see there the green's looking okay. It kind of fits in with what we were doing and everything's looking pretty. So moving on to what we're going to tackle today, we have these sort of centre parts of the flowers. So I've picked out 3 shades of yellow for this. Got Yellow Sapphire, Sunflower and Tuscan Sun. So we're going to do that first. So I'm quite sort of methodical about this now, and I'm just going to work my way around. The other thing that I've been kind of pondering as well is normally with my little Kerby creatures, I colour them in with neon pencils. Now because we're working with the Arteza pencils, I have decided that I'm going to have to come up with an alternate colour scheme for that. But we'll worry about that in the next video, I think. So yeah, I'm just gonna get going with my lightest pencil. Standard procedure for my good self. Get that down there. Now most of these areas are quite small in the centre of these flowers, so again it's not really something that I have to pay too much attention to, but I want the very centre part to be the darkest and then bring up the lighter colours towards the tips. So the likes of in here, I'm going to get right in there with my darkest shade, which is the Tuscan Sun. Lovely name for a pencil, I like it a lot. And just make sure I've got that nice and rich and bright, and then I can work up and blend out with the other two. First of all, going from the Tuscan Sun to the mid-tone, which is, what did we decide? That was Sunflower. I'm going to put a little bit of that down here as well. Yeah, that looks okay. I just wanted to see what these are going to look like, you know, in the bigger picture, so that's why I've left it zoomed out just for a minute until I have a wee look at this and just see what it looks like, and that's looking pretty good. So I think we'll carry on with this. Let's get zoomed in a wee bit and we'll work on these middles here. Now I think it might be a better idea here to have the very centre, this palest colour, because we've got a couple that have got these kind of like central points. I can't remember the name for all these different parts of the inside of the flower, like the sort of main bud part and these little proggy bits have actually got different names. I just can't remember them. I'm sure somebody in the comments will tell me. That looks like a middle one as well. So I'm just going to colour them in solid colour. Maybe do that bit in there. And then I can use my two darker colours on the slightly longer sections and get a wee bit of a blend going. So Sunflower in closest to the middle like this, and then use the Tuscan Sun on the outside parts. I have decided, I've made an executive decision, everyone. After this nameplate page is finished, I'm only going to do one more, and the reason for that is I just feel as if it's getting a bit stale now. The books that I have remaining, most of the nameplate pages are Hannah Carlson pages, and I feel as if we've kind of done that to death. So the one that I'm going to do after this is going to be one of Karolina Kubikowska's books. And the reason that I want to do that one is because I'm going to do it in watercolour, I'm not going to do it in pencil. And I think that will be a nice wee change. And the other Hannah Carlson books that I've got that I haven't done the nameplate pages in, I think I'm just going to do them in my own time. I think we've had quite a good run out of these nameplate videos, but it's getting time to change up to something else. So I just thought that would be a nice point, because we're coming to the end of the year as well. That would be a nice time to stop it, and then we've really had a year of nameplate pages, can you believe it? So we'll change to something else and we'll do something a bit more interesting. So on that note, if there's something in particular that you would like to see, like a recurring theme, like a nameplate page kind of idea, or if there's a particular book that you'd like to see a couple of pictures coloured in, we could do something like that. I will still pepper in some tutorials and things when it comes to the colouring videos, which you know I tend to do anyway. But I'm open to any suggestions if anybody has one. I know I'm always open to suggestions, and I like to hear your thoughts and get your input on stuff like that. So please feel free to meander down to the comments section and leave me something, because I like to read the comments too. So again, not taking a great amount of time or care, and I'm actually pressing quite hard here. I'm not bothering to layer the pencil. I'm just going in with like one really heavy layer, and it's just because of the size of the area that we're working in. There's no point in fiddling about for too long when we can, you can really get a move on, you can get a wiggle on with bits like this. I know there are people that like to take their time, over every single little detail, and I respect that, but for the purposes of filming and also because of the busyness of the picture, it's just not so much of an issue. Okay, these ones look quite dark, so I'm going to stick to the palest yellow. So again, that's the yellow sapphire, and I'm going to pop this in here. And again, it's what we were talking about before, it's about contrast of the adjacent items. We don't want it to be too samey, although I am sticking to this sort of rigid yellow for this, purple for that. But we do need that variation, because that's what makes it fun and makes it nice to look at. Aesthetically pleasing, that's the phrase. And then I can just use this mid-tone, and I'm just going to put a tiny wee bit in down the bottom here, not a huge amount. That'll just kind of help to set it off, and then we can blend these in using the lemon, like yellow sapphire, lemon yellow. Wrong set of pencils, Jim. Oh dear. I was actually having a look at my collection of coloured pencils earlier. I did get sent a lovely set of the Black Widow Scorpion pencils the other day from one of the viewers, so thank you again, much appreciated. I'm going to be doing a wee review on those in just not too distant future. But I was looking through all my pencils, and it's actually appalling the number of pencils that I have. Considering I'm I don't class myself as a pencil hoarder, but I do have a substantial amount of pencils now. So I need better storage for them. Okay, so again, lightest yellow, and I'm going to do these little circular parts here. And then take that mid-tone colour, I'm going to bring that right down. This colour looks lovely against the purple, I really like it. And I'm just going to keep that all the one colour up round here, and then using the darkest colour, I'll just pop that in there and just let it sort of fade out a wee bit towards the tip, leaving that little white edge that I like to leave as well. Alright, so that's that section done. I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything down this side before we move on. We've got these three in the middle here as well, and then actually we've only got this one over here, and that's all the flowers done, I think. Yay! How terribly exciting! So again, palest yellow first. Got a bit more room for manoeuvre with these just because they're slightly bigger. So I'll pop this down. Look at this little guy, he's my favourite. His little face. He's like a cross between a rabbit and a gopher or something maybe. I don't know what you would call that. A rofer? A gabbit? I don't know. Oh dear. Okay, so I'm just going to use the mid-tone. I'm not going to use the darkest pencil here, so I'm just using the sunflower here. And I'm going to put some flicks in at the bottom to mimic Kerby's wee lines. And then I think I'm going to leave like a wee gap and then just kind of do it, you know, do it at random. And then go back in with this sapphire, yellow sapphire, not lemon yellow. And just blend that in a wee bit. I can go back and forth here, that's not too much of a hassle. And I'm just going to do the same, exactly the same for these other ones as well. So I don't have much else planned today. Once again, there's loads of things that I could be doing or should be doing, but I had a horrendous night's sleep last night, so I am not feeling particularly energetic today. So it's also very, 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 very cold outside. So it's kind of a day just to put the fire on and be cosy. We call it building a den. You build a den, either take a book or, you know, your iPad or whatever it is you do, and I think it's going to be a colouring book for me this afternoon, and get a blanket and a cup of tea and just curl up and get cosy. Build a den on the sofa. Okay, so this last one over here, I'm going to use primarily the Tuscan Sun, it's the darkest colour. So what I would like to do is just pop a wee bit of this yellow sapphire in the middle. Make that quite vibrant, and then with this work round the outside and just blend it into that in the middle, so there's just like a pale part in the middle. I just work it in gradually, and I can go back over the very periphery, well, that's a good word, and just blend those out. There we go. Excellente. I'm thinking about these, the more, well, I'm going to call them the more human Kerby creatures, so like this little guy with his helmet on, and these kind of fairy type ones. I still don't know what colour I'm going to do these, but I'll leave that just now. So yeah, the ones that are more sort of human looking, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give them some eyes, because that's important. Everybody deserves to have eyes. So I'll start with this little dude down here, and I'm just using a fine liner to do this. Nothing fancy. See, it like gives them a bit more personality. Who else needs eyes? This little dude here. I think it makes them look a lot friendlier as well, and I quite like the idea of them being friendly. This little guy as well, he's like, woohoo! I like the fact that he's got like bunny ears. That amuses me. And we've got this little dude up here as well. There we go. Okay, everyone has eyes. I'm satisfied. Right, yeah, so for these kind of more rounded characters, I have picked out two colours. I have picked out the ocean blue, and I've also picked out blueberry. Now that doesn't sound like a combination that blends together very well. It kind of doesn't, to be honest, but I wanted something to complement the hummingbirds without being the same colour. So I'm not even going to try and explain this, I'm just going to do it and show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I'll start with this little dude here because he's got quite a lot of space in him. I've sharpened both my pencils up, and this is the ocean blue. So I just want to pop this down first, and I'm going to try and keep this as even as possible. Normally I don't take much care over this first layer, but I need to have quite a smooth transition between this and the blueberry. So it's kind of important that this is reasonably accurate. Right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to put the blueberry round the outside. And I'm thinking, you know how you see all these drawing and colouring exercises where you do it in a sphere and it's to learn where the light and shadow is? I'm kind of thinking like along the lines of that. I want him to be almost shiny. And I know we don't have a direct light source in this picture, but I just thought it was two colours that would be quite interesting to try and put together. So obviously I'm not following that sphere exercise because I'd have to have bounce light and all sorts of things, and quite frankly I'm just not up for that today. And then I'm going to take back to this ocean blue, and I'm just going to try and blend it in here. I just wanted it to be a little bit more interesting. I'm kind of thinking because they're sitting on the hummingbirds, I'm kind of thinking them as like guardians of the hummingbirds or keepers, or you know, something like that. So I wanted them to have like similar colours so that they, you know, you can kind of identify that they're not joined together, you know what I mean, though, they're affiliated with each other. That's probably a better phrase. God, I'm full of the big words today. And that's actually blended out quite well, and that's just goes to show you how good these pencils are. Yeah, he looks kind of cute, doesn't he? So I'm going to have a bit of the blueberry in here, and I think maybe in here as well, in his little arm that's tucked in behind, and perhaps at the end of this arm. And then back to this colour. Now I'm going fairly lightly and just continuing to go back over. That seems to work well with this pencil and paper combo. I'm sure I said that yesterday as well. This is the problem about filming the same video over 2 days, you forget what you've said. I have got videos and all the associated tasks like coming out of my ears just now. I'm very, very busy filming for Cavemas, so I've got bits of videos everywhere and I do tend to forget what I've said. Okay, they look good. I think I'm going to do these guys the same colours. Yeah, I think I might do that. And I'll do a couple more of these little Kerby creatures. This little guy here hiding under his horned helmet. I don't have to be as careful here now that I know that these are blending okay together, and because it's a smaller area I don't need to get that even layer of this ocean blue down quite as, you know, it's not quite as imperative. Man, there's another one. I'm all about the big words today. Imperative. Like a walking dictionary today. I had an old work colleague before I was self-employed. There was a gentleman I worked with who I'm still quite friendly with, actually. This was a number of years ago, and he always used to poke fun at me for using big words, and he had what he called the big word trumpet. So anytime I used a slightly complicated word or one that was more than like 5 letters long, he used to say, "Oh, here comes the big word trumpet," and it was kind of a play on like blowing your own trumpet. So every time I said something that was a slightly more complicated word, I used to go, "Dur, dur, dur, big word trumpet." And that became a sort of standing joke at work. It doesn't sound funny now, see, when I say that out loud. It was one of those ones I think you had to be there. But I used to pick up like toilet roll tubes or, you know, like poster tubes and things and do it. It was quite entertaining. He's a funny guy. I'm kind of avoiding these guys with the wings just now because I'm not convinced that that's what I'm going to use the same colours with them. Let's do this little guy. He looks like he's having so much fun. Either that or he's terrified. I'm not quite sure which. His little ears, look, they're so cute. Get this down, and then I can have that in there. And I'm going to bring in the shade in this way on this one, just so it's different from the arm that's in behind. Again, just to get that contrast between the two limbs. I could have said appendages there, that would have been another big word. Oh geez, what is wrong with me today? I'm in a silly mood, I think. And again, with these ears, I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. There's something very liberating about not having a set light source, and you can just kind of do what you want, and it's kind of fun. I'm kind of enjoying it. Pop that in there. They do kind of just look like a darker version, or like the underside of the hummingbird wings, and I quite like that. It's appealing to me. The more I look at this little guy, the more I think he might be frightened. That makes me feel bad because I've always thought up till now that it looks as if he's having a good time. Oh no, we've got a breakage. Oh, this kind of matches my nails. Oh, here we go. I'm a bit scared about this, I'm not going to lie. After my lime pencil fiasco yesterday. Let's see how we go. Okay, that's just snapped clean off. I've just heard that snap in the sharpener again as well. I actually think this might be broken all the way through. I'm going to try another sharpener. I have been getting on, when I've been sharpening these pencils, I have been using this Milan sharpener that I've got, and this is quite a recent purchase, and it seems to behave well with these pencils. But I'm going to switch over. I've got a Derwent sharpener here as well, and this is also quite new as well, so I'm going to try in the larger hole and just see how we get on here. See if I can kind of coax out a point in this, and I can tell you right now the answer to that is no. Treat it like a Prismacolor. I've got my Tagawa multi sharpener and I'm going to put it on a number 2 point and see if this does anything. Okay, there we go, we're good. You can see that's giving it a much shorter, stubbier point. If you've got a broken pencil like that, it's better to have a point like this because there's less of the core on show. Therefore, if it is delicate, it's less likely to break off. But even at that, I've had to sharpen down a fair bit there just to get a point back. But that's fine. I might just stick with that sharpener now because that's 2 pencils this has happened to in the set. And the very fact that we don't have any open stock replacements, I have to be a bit more kind of precious about stuff like that. So, and I really like this colour, so I don't want it to disappear completely. It's different with Prismacolors because the open stock for them is readily available and they're not that expensive. I mean, they're still expensive, but they're not, you know, it's not like you have to ship them from America or anything like that, so it's just not quite as bad. Okay, he's looking pretty good now. And we've got one little guy up here as well, we'll do him too. Now he's definitely having a good time, he's definitely smiling, there's no doubt about that. So I don't have to feel bad about this one. Here we go, and I'll maybe make the dark side this side. Again, the joys of not having a set light source. Get his little face coloured in. I thoroughly enjoy colouring silly wee things like this. It's just fun. And I think we'll have that quite deep in there. And I'll leave that wee white bit there on his arm, why not? There we are, the keeper of the hummingbirds. Right, let's have a wee zoom out now. We are getting there, people, we are getting there. Okay, so all that leaves us next time is a couple of these little Kerby creatures and our winged fairies and the butterflies. So yeah, just little bitty bits to finish up, but we will finish them off next time, and that will be the last video and our page shall be completed, which I'm quite excited about. Don't forget, if you haven't already, to check out the Cave Stash in its new home over on eBay, and check out the website and the Redbubble shop as well now if you fancy purchasing something with a little bit of Colour Cave artwork on it. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye for now.